Welcome to the audio lecture series. We're going to cover evocation. Well, this is real popular now. Everybody seems to be interested in evocation. You see this term constantly in occultism, and it seems to be hooked up with people's Hollywood desire to see the physical manifestation of spirits. Which of course is what a lot of occultists want to see and do as part of the occult practice. Now, there's a lot of books written on evocation now. There's even a goofy one produced by Finbar, which has the title Evocation, but nothing in it really is about evoking spirits. So, I mean, it's just about everywhere. And there's always been traditional ways of doing this. I mean, most of the Western magical tradition, otherwise known as ritual magic, is about evoking spirits. I mean, that's what ritual magic is all about. Many people call this high magic, and low magic being more of a witchcraft tradition, which is dealing more with earth energies and such. But, you know, a lot of witchcraft deals with spirits as well. They call on the horned god. They're using a lot of gods, goddesses, spirits, devas, which are spirits of the plant kingdom. So it's really a misnomer. It's just the snobby attitude of ritual magicians that they're doing something much more sophisticated than that silly little witchcraft. But real witchcraft, as offered by the Guild in our course, is a very high alchemical advanced course, and there's really only one type of magic. There's no such thing as types of magic. There's only magic that works. The rest of it is not really magic, and there's only magic that works for you. But there's a fascination for this, and I think this has been bred a lot by Hollywood, particularly the movies. In the last 20 years or so, there's been this birth of spirit-type movies that cross over into the horror genre. The Freddy movies, where they haunt your dreams, Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a spirit-type atmosphere to this, and there's been a lot of movies and talked about the famous Necronomicon book that everyone's read is about evoking spirits. And there's somehow thought that this is going to be much more powerful than any other system because you're dealing with something that you can direct and command. And there's a lot of ways of looking at evocation in terms of ways of practicing it. Now, traditional ritual magic, it's pretty traditional. I mean, you set up these circles, you have triangles you call spirits into. I mean, it's laid out explicitly in many, many books. The Golden Dawn, of course, was famous for having particular circles and triangles to call spirits into them. And there's been changes in the recent years of attitudes towards spirits and stuff, which people have been led in the wrong direction, as usual, as more and more disinformation is coming out to misinform and depower the occultists of this generation and the generations to come. But calling on spirits and directing them to go do things or commanding them to do things, and part of that process, of course, is the actual occultist wants the spirit to physically manifest. They want to see it. Now, this is possible, and it can be done, but it's extremely difficult. It is fairly rare and not advisable if you want the spirit to be doing something for you, because it's all about energy as well. And if you call on entities to physically show themselves, this requires a lot of energy and tends to depower the entire process. Yet there are many ways of having spirit presences. Now, the most low-class and ridiculous thing is feeling. If you feel a presence, you feel a heaviness. The problem with this is that it's way too subjective. What feeling? Is it strong? Is it light? Is it scary? Is it fun? It's way too subjective, and that's a real cop-out. If you're going to teach evocation and spirit manifestation, and you tell people that, and I've heard this talk by a New Age, born-again, black magicians, yeah, but everybody could feel it. The ridiculous babbling of E.A. Conetting and his hucksterism of evocation is so comical that I don't know how I don't think he has any followers other than ignorant teenagers. Anybody with any background can't take this guy seriously. Really, we're going to do a whole lecture on him as well. And his excuse is, I can't film them, of course, because he likes these slick little films and fake little interviews and fake little radio shows that are based for his whole little conglomerate of people that he works with that promote in these slick little fashions to sucker people. The paid for number of views and hits, which of course you can easily pay for 50,000 views on YouTube or Facebook, etc. You just buy these, and if you can do it for a minimum amount of money. I don't believe he has any of those audiences doing it. Not to mention the child level of his writings, which are nothing new. So feeling is ridiculous. It's too subjective, and you can easily get a crowd of people to feel the presence of something. All you have to do is say it. All you have to do is set a stage, have candles flickering in a dark room with a few pentagrams, a few sigils here and there, and everybody's going to feel the energy. But there are other ways. One of the classic ways is if you have a burning torch or a burning cauldron of some sort of incense cauldron, to see major flare-ups. I'm talking about a couple of feet flaring up. The affecting of candle flames that go up 6-7 inches over normal. These are more common and easily produced ways that spirits let you know they're there. And these can be filmed and everybody can witness this. Just like if a spirit appears, everybody in the room will see it. Not only the magician can only see it. That kind of cop-out is, anybody who falls for that, you deserve to be with a dumb huckster, born-again, New Age black magician who wants to teach you ascension. You mean descension? You want to descend into his realm of stupidity. And of course, he's going to use demonic forces to heal. So, these are easily produced and can be easily filmed by anyone who claims to be a great evoker. And the other thing is that there are many ways of doing it. The witchcraft sorcery course that we offer has basically a spirit manifestation in the bottle. I mean, we have formulas which are complicated, go back hundreds of years, that like Van, which is classic used by voodoo practitioners and hoodoo practitioners for hundreds of years, draws in positive spirits. And these positive spirits go and do what you ask them to do. You don't have to go through a lot of complicated and dangerous procedures like so many of these other systems claim they do. So that's kept in mind. And, the bottom line is that if people are going to claim they have power and they can do this and do that and make outrageous statements of godlike powers, etc., they're going to have to prove something other than a laughable video that he made contact with the spirit and then we could see nothing, and then wrote his responses down in a book. I mean, it's like a comedy. It should have been a Saturday Night Live bit. So there's many ways, if you're a powerful magician, to have all sorts of effects. Things are thrown around the room. All sorts of things can possibly happen when there's real spirit activity. People actually feel touches on them. There's all sorts of things, but it's very common, and one reason why you want to watch candle flames is having huge candle flames, candles burning intensely, flames going high, incense. All these type of things are quite common. Knocks on the wall, knocks on the ceiling. Things happen which even are shown in a lot of bad occult movies. But those things are basically real when you manifest something. Glowing balls of light is common as well. To get a spirit to come into a physical form that looks like some sort of creature, this is what's rare and this is what's difficult. But a ball of light of some sort, a glow, a ghostly type image, yes, this can happen, and is generally rarer than affecting other things that I just stated. But if you have the right alchemical formulas, the spirit draws, the Vans, all these things are designed to draw in spirits. And in all magical systems, no matter what practices you're doing, will attract spirits for that particular purpose into your ritual. Plain and simple. The process of itself, there's spirits around us all the time. And as you're opening up dimensions, you're opening up contacts to streams and energies, these entities and spirits are around them, are always there. And when you open a door, they generally tend to come in. Whether you are fully recognizing that or not, their presence are rarely made known, but they're working within the ritual. When a candle flame is consistently burning, you're activating a portal for all kinds of energy, including spirit energies, to work in that area. It is an evocation in itself. So everything is a combination of earth energies, psychic energies, and spirit energies. That's what all magic is about. And that's what the science of magic is about. That's what the occult sciences is here to explain to people and take all this nonsense mysticism away from some of these practices. Now, with some spirits, particularly fallen angels and what's classified as demonic spirits, this is what people want to play with for one reason or another. Because of the fact that these are earthbound entities and spirits that are in charge of physical realities. While generally angels and other things, while they will assist with protection and healing and helping spiritual growth, generally, you're not going to go to an angel and say, "Hey, angel buddy, I'm looking for a piece. I want to get some this weekend. Yeah, we need a little help here." Generally, you're not going to do that, and I'm not aware of any angelic spirit who's known for its lust or its controlling of sexuality. That, of course, has been designated to a demonic or fallen angel. And, I don't really like that term, because here we go, there's so many terms now that have been abused and used, and nobody really understands them anymore. I mean, psychic power went from a mind-based energy, which was fully acceptable and thought everyone had, to be perverted through the 80s and by the Black Lodge Christians, fundamentalist Christians, as a demonic energy. It was no longer brain-based. It was an occult energy coming from Satan or from some negative entity. It was no longer your higher self or even the channeling of God energy. It was the channeling of demon energy, because it appears that you can't channel anything positive per the Black Lodge fraudulent religions and their minions of right-wing Christian fundamentalist morons. It's all nonsense propaganda. Demons generally are things that are destructive, evil energies, and these are things that only are for causing evil, which is disease and destruction. If a demon is in charge, or a spirit, most of them are fallen angels, are in charge of money, finding treasure, sexual pleasure, success, gambling success. That's not; those are earth-bound energies that all humans have to deal with. And I don't consider those in any way demonic. You're not hurting anybody. You're assisting your own life. And these are things that are in this physical reality and are socially acceptable to be involved with to a large degree. So to classify these as evil is a moronic viewpoint coming from those Black Lodge fundamentalist Christians, which are basically Satanists. There's certainly nothing positive about them. They're certainly not right-hand path. They're not about evolution. They're about enslavement, which is ultimately what all satanic belief systems are about. It's all about enslavement and egotistical gratification. And these fundamentalists are satisfying their own ego. I know more than you do. I know what the book says. The book says I should kill you, because that's what Jesus wants. Jesus wants lots of dead people. He wants nobody to have jobs. Definitely doesn't want health care. That's from Satan. We don't want healthy people. And we got to have lots of wars and lots of police to take care of everybody. Well, these are the people that usually are involved in the most disgusting things possible, and most perversions and child molestations, and having the most amount of affairs. It's interesting that it appears that the most pornography is watched in the southern states more than any other states. Where all the fundies are. And, of course, the capital of it all, Texas, where all the Black Lodge makes its home and trains all of its people. So, you've got to understand that aspect of it. But there are literally thousands of spirits and angels to call upon from all sorts of tradition, because God forms you could call as spirits as well. So you can evoke anything, basically. So you can invoke God forms, and there's literally thousands of these. There's an excellent book on angels that we will have a link to for further information that lists all the angels, including all the fallen angels. And there are hundreds and hundreds of names in there and exactly what their uses are for, and you can evoke these by using their names. And once you know how to do basic evocation, you can call on any spirit whatsoever. Now, the idea is, what's the basic? That there's one master text for all of this. There's the one book that every other book on this subject really has been based on, particularly in the Western tradition. And that's called the Red Dragon Grimoire, the Grand Grimoire, and the Black Dragon Grimoire. Now, this shows you the proper way to do evocation based in the medieval style. It shows you how to properly do it, how to safely do it, and it gives you the attributes and the spirits to call on for all sorts of things. From very typical and interesting medieval things like making yourself invincible, bewitching firearms so they don't work, opening up locks, being able to take torture. I mean, all these things that were people in the Middle Ages were interesting and excellent to know, to your typical lust, treasure finding, money drawing, success, and the other usual things that equate directly to the society. But even those older things certainly could be used in a modern world today with the amount of firearms, and making yourself invincible, etc. certainly would be interesting. But it shows you step by step how to do it, how to control the spirits, how to call them. So, any other book than this, really you're getting secondhand information, the pure knowledge that was passed on and transferred and translated by master occult translator, Grand Master Robert Blanchard, Ph.D., who's a working occultist, translated this book for the first time completely from the French untouched edition, as much as a grimoire is untouched, and translated it into English, into plain English, in a usable fashion for everybody to access it and learn how to do proper evocation. All these other books are putting in their own particular ways of doing it. It is not the pure tradition, is not the way it is done. These born-again, New Age black magicians are teaching you dangerous, bastardized ways of doing things. And why use terrible systems based by really ignorant authors when you have an original text done in a fantastic fashion by a working occult expert? And I highly recommend you read our Art of Occult Translation to understand what a real occult translator does, and not what all these frauds are doing now. That most of them don't even speak another language. They're using Google Translation. And ignorant people somehow want to follow these people who even state in their translations that, hey, don't bet on this. I have no responsibility for what I'm saying here. That's a translator? Well, here we go again. So, the bottom line is that if you're interested in evocation, like so many people are, get the original text. Work with the original text. Work with the way it was meant to be practiced in the medieval times, which is highly based in the culture of that time, which is the way it is, whether you like it or not, was based on using Christian gods to control the demonic forces. If you're going to call on a Christian demonic force, well, that force is only going to respect the Christian God who beat him up, threw him out of heaven, and has his angels control him anytime he wants, calling whose name is Saint Michael, the angel who subdued Lucifer and Satan and beat the crap out of him and threw him out of heaven along with his cohorts. So if people want to use these kind of entities and they want to control them, now if you want to sell your soul like it's done in a childish, ignorant, nonsense fashion that nobody really did, the Faust story is an amusing little tale that only a moron would sell his whole eternity for a little bit of power on earth. And then, of course, why would you possibly trust anything that Satan would give you? It's a childish story, and it holds really no credence. There's grimoires on it that we've published for information and gone through it with numerous errors and a bunch of it's a fun little text, like so many to look into. But who would be so stupid to do that? Now, the Red Dragon, otherwise known as the Art of Commanding Spirits. Now that's really interesting if you think about it, that's really the subtitle of the book. The Art of Commanding Spirits. Now, that's a mouthful. First of all, it tells you that it's an art form. But commanding spirits is quite a bit different than evoking spirits. We're going to have a nice conversation. I'm going to call you up on the phone and we'll chat up, or I'll contact you on my Facebook page. I'll invoke you there. Instead of commanding, which I will tell you what to do and I will command you how you should act and perform. Now, that's very different than evoking. And evoking is a poor term. Now, the Red Dragon tells you how to make a pact with Satan, which is, again, poorly understood. Pacts are not about Faustian pacts of selling your soul. That's an idiot's game. And I don't really find any references to that in ancient grimoires whatsoever, except the Faustian myth, which was basically a fiction book or a novel written by the author of the Faust Now, whether he was an actual magician that lived at one time or name, who knows? But needless to say, it sounds like another goofball Aleister Crowley type who really didn't know what he was doing and wanted to play the demon part. After all, what does he care? He's such a sick pervert that being in hell would be kind of like paradise to him. So it's really an idiotic way to operate. And that's not what ancient magicians were. They weren't idiots. They knew the art of magic, and they were occult scientists. They knew how to command spirits, tell them what to do, or face the wrath of God. That's basically what it's all about. And that's what works, and that's what's been used, and that's real magical evocation. Not some sort of, well, we're going to treat these guys nice and talk pretty to them. This seems to be a common Black Lodge disinformation campaign, that they're basically enslaving you to a demonic spirit and allowing yourself to be possessed. They're feeding you dangerous knowledge or dangerous disinformation masked as knowledge. To enslave and entrap you. That's not the way it's done. The literature's there. It's as plain as day. And we offer the only proper, complete, well-done edition of the Red Dragon, the Art of Commanding Spirits, and the Black Dragon. A few other very poor editions have come out with changed sigils, all sorts of little traps to catch you in, enslave you in, and make you possessed. And if you think that's dramatic, mess with their editions and find out. And find out when your life is destroyed and you end up as a total slave to demons. Because that's where you're heading if you don't use a proper system that tells you how to banish, how to do exorcisms. All this is in the Red Dragon Grimoire, the Art of Commanding Spirits. And it's part 2, the Black Dragon. It's all there laid out properly the way it should be. And if you want to even avoid those types of things, the course we offer on the basic witchcraft has evocation in a bottle. It has calling spirits directly right in a bottle all ready for you. The high art of alchemical combination of fine essential oils to create a vibration to draw spirits in has been used for hundreds and thousands of years. Voodoo tradition is famous for this. And speaking of the voodoo tradition, most of the voodoo inner circle practices are based on the Red Dragon Grimoire. Now, Haiti was owned by the French. They ruled Haiti, and they brought to that island all the French grimoires, including the Red Dragon that they had hundreds of years before. The Guild translated for the average English speaker and the average American. And voodoo vexes are copies of seals from the Red Dragon, or they are the same type of system. Some are very similar. They look similar. But the technique of the seals the vexes were copied from the seals. A lot of their evocational or calling on spirits is based from Red Dragon instructions. So, and again, few people seem to understand that. But that's the facts. The fact is that they had all this European magic because that was a colony of France. And of course, Napoleon even invaded Egypt so that it could strictly get magical information and information on astrology, etc. The first things that Napoleon did was grab hieroglyphs detailing the astrology, which is very interesting. So, and there's a whole story about Napoleon, etc., that is detailed in the art of occult translation of what really was going on there, which is another fascinating story unto itself that few people know about. But that's the father of all, the father and the mother of all evocational practices. And to use any other junky book that somebody's rewritten, or the complicated, nonsensical systems you tend to get from the Golden Dawn that drag on and are difficult to use. The Red Dragon Grimoire tells you exactly how to do everything step by step, and it's very clear. The practices are not confusing. There's very few terms in there that you will not understand. There are a few that were unknown of at that time. New editions will clarify, but very, very little. It's all laid out there of what you have to do. It shows you the circle to form. It shows you how to make mirrors to talk to spirits. It shows you how to make all sorts of powerful tools to control and draw spirits to you. It's all in that text, and this is the original stuff. And if you're using complicated nonsense or regurgitated modern stuff, or even information from so-called Golden Dawn systems, which general information is okay, but it's a very drawn out and ceremonial system, because the people that did that, and Golden Dawn, a lot of people seem to misunderstand. That was a reconstructed system that was done in the late 1800s, 1890, I don't know. They lasted for like 20, 30 years, and that was it for the entire original order. And they reconstructed it from a lot of Egyptian and other practices. They put this together. This isn't an ancient system that was a continued on called the Golden Dawn. The Golden Dawn was a magical club who was started by a bunch of ne'er-do-well writers and poets in England, I believe around 1890, 1900, I don't know, somewhere in that area. And they reconstructed a system, added in a lot of theatrics and funny little costumes. And that's the Golden Dawn. It's not some ancient tradition that was rediscovered. It was put together from different texts in the manner that they thought was proper. And I'm not sure how much they really knew or not. But if you want to do hardcore evocation, you need the art of commanding spirits. You need the Red Dragon Grimoire. That is it. You don't need 50 other books. It tells you what spirits control, what they're good for, how to control them, and how to command them. 100% safe, and what to do at each particular step. And as a supplement to all those practices, you can just get a evocation in a bottle by using the Witchcraft Sorcery course that we have, that actually has high alchemical art compounded formulas that actually do similar processes of pulling spirits in. So there's a lot. There's an awful lot that people need clarified, and you can't be listening to these suckers that want to sell you a fancy little hardcover book with a bunch of psychobabble in it and 10 pages. They're worse than Parker books of real knowledge about something, and or these other nonsensical evocation machines. That's a frickin' joke. And all this other complicated nonsense. Go to the source. You want to get the best of something, go to the original document that tells you, that's done by professionals, that's been around in testing for over 35 years now. That book's been tested. We've tracked all of our products and uses, and this stuff works, plain and simple. Well, we have a lot of other interesting texts. You could almost say fun texts like gargoyles and samurai magic and so forth. These work as well. We've tried these, we've tested them, and they're nowhere near the power of the Red Dragon and Black Dragon. And it's very important that you get a text done by a qualified occult professional, including the fact that we have never changed any of the sigils or original illustrations. Other people have had the gall and the ignorance to go in and actually change to try and make some things look a little prettier. the actual sigils and have totally depowered the entire process. Because if you change these things even the slightest, you have destroyed it. It will not work. It's like chopping off a piece of a pyramid. Well, if you mess the entire structure, the basic structure of a pyramid up, it will no longer produce pyramid energy. But I mean, the ultimate stupid ignorance of anybody that could possibly do something of that low level just ought to tell you just volumes and volumes of what kind of boobs they are. And even going in and changing the words, the translations are incorrect. They're done from a satanic Black Lodge. They've messed up the text as well. Now, you need to really understand this as an occultist, that, if you don't get information from a quality source, you've got something that doesn't work and potentially dangerous. And we know of people who have used devices, magic machines, who have gotten ill from them because they produce nothing but toxic energies. This was a common problem. And we know of people who have used a lot of these other texts who have been possessed, or who have demons come after them. I'm talking about vicious demons that attack them, and they don't have any way to protect themselves, because the texts are designed to have them possess you, not to be able to banish them. So there are dangers involved. If you're just going to get information from anybody, it's like getting healing information. If you're going to just get information from the guy on the street corner who's going to describe a medication to you, or say this particular herb's going to save your life or cure cancer, oh yeah, take this pill. That ranks right up there with the penis pills that are going to make you have a giant schlong. It's at the best, it's just a fraud that takes your money. At the worst, it can kill you. Now, you need to wake up, people, and stop supporting a bunch of frauds who give you fake dreams and who write pretty little blogs of corrupt nonsense, who are really nothing more than thugs and street criminals and connected to the Black Lodge, who wants to destroy occultism in general and keep it entirely for itself. Now, you can say, well, this doesn't exist. Well, we will document all these things and be presenting them to the public soon. But it's the fact of getting quality information from people who know what they're doing, not some author that works for Llewellyn or some other crap publishing house, but an official organization who has for years has studied and researched and taught occultism and has presented it to the public. I mean, the reason why our books sell for thousands and some for $10,000 is because the information that we offer is worth it. People will buy it for that money because they know it's the best, and you can't get any other. Now, there is no other translation except for the Red Dragon offered by the Guild. All the rest are junk, poor copies with all sorts of errors. As I said, most of them are just bits and pieces. They don't even have the full text. Not to mention all the secret encoding that our edition has to assist the operator as well. So there's so many things involved in it. But the sure fact of evocation, which is so attractive to people, if you're looking for Hollywood results, if you just want to see spirits, you're most likely going to be sadly disappointed. If you're looking for a powerful magical system, and which can send out particularly powerful spirits to manifest for you, well, that's what real evocation is about. If you're going to get caught up in Hollywood nonsense, you're going to be disappointed. As I've stated, there are certain manifestations that are common. The candle flames, the surging, the noises, the flashes of lights. These kind of things are common when doing proper. And we get reports of this consistent. I don't know anybody who used the red dragon who hasn't seen candles go up of at least a foot and the flame goes up. It's quite shocking to actually see that. It's very common to hear bangs on the roof or on the floor, and is quite common as well. Flashes of light are very common as well. You see kind of like a ball of light that kind of materializes and then disappears. Even ghostly images are quite common, but not defined, more misty type things that you can see. So all of this is very, very common, and I think anybody who uses the red dragon consistently will definitely have these kind of experiences. But this fact of seeing a physical entity like in a movie with defined features, that's extremely rare. And many times, the reason for this is the spirits themselves do not want to be defined like that. They don't want to be seen. Their fear of being completely controlled and even captured, as a lot of processes and genies were done, as the old mythology says. They put them in a lamp, they would hide them in there, and to do that you have to get them to materialize, and then you force them into these vessels and so forth. So they don't like doing that for that fear as well. They don't want to be that controlled. They want to be able to be sent back to where they come from after they do what you instruct them to do. They don't want to be a kept slave or prisoner. So this is all part and parcel why they don't manifest in this pure physical form like in a movie. That's extremely rare. For the reason I just stated, and for the reasons I've already stated about using, it's a waste of energy to do that generally. But the other manifestations are quite common. So, matter of fact, I don't know anybody that hasn't used the red dragon that hasn't seen one of these in multiple times. That has happened. And these are filmable. These things do happen, and others can see it, but you'll experience it directly. It's not in your mind. If something happens only in your mind, you are living in a delusion. I mean, basically, that's called schizophrenia. If it's only within your mind and in your consciousness, particularly seeing things, hearing things, you got to worry whether you need to go get some medication for that. So don't be fooled by that nonsense. But there are many ways of generating power. Evocation is just one of them. All of our research points to a hybrid, powerful system of witchcraft, sorcery that we offer with the hoodoo, voodoo aspects of it. Is extremely effective because it's easy to do and generates a lot of power. And the problem with evocation is generally you got to form circles, you got to control these spirits because they are dangerous to an extent. You have to be careful if you're calling on these fallen angels who are more than happy to suck all the energy dry out of you and possess you, because that's what they do. And you have to make sure you protect yourself. You have to make sure you know how to banish, and you have to make sure that they are well aware that if they mess with you, that you're going to use the force of God and his angels, that they're going to go after them and take care of them. They're going to punish you. That's how real evocation works. That's how it's always been done and always will be done if you know what you're doing. This making buddies and pals and friends of spirits is nonsense. Complete and total nonsense. It doesn't work like that. Why would a spirit work for you? Because you give them a little offering? Oh, that's nonsense. It doesn't work like that. You have to command them. You have to tell them who's in charge and bring them in. They're not going to help you because you give them a little offering. It doesn't work that way. Just plain and simple. And if you think you're going to make contact using blood sacrifices and sex, that will attract the lowest level destructive entity you can possibly think of, and it will get you in more trouble than you really want. And the bottom line is it's just not needed. I mean, our hardcore alchemical witchcraft is extremely effective, and as I said, you basically have a spirit in a bottle. You use a van, you use a spirit drawer, and you can pull in any type of spirits you want, positive spirits, safely and easily. And the proper setup on your altar, make sure that you filter out negative spirits. If you're going to call on demonic forces or serious destructive entities, you can still use these spirit drawers, but you have to do it in a more classical fashion, and that's more advanced practices. But you have to be a little more careful, and all you really have to do, instead of just is you form a circle around your altar so that you are not affected. And it's pretty simple. It's just standard magical practices. While in most voodoo and hoodoo, you don't generally do that. That's all you have to do if you're using strong negative entities. But I can't state enough, that's the proper way to do it. That's the pure, proper way of doing evocation. And these boring, dragged out, hundreds and hundreds of pages of ritual magic books are just enough to make you cry. It's just so boring. And, you know, it really interests a certain level of pseudo-intellectual types that, because it's so complicated, you have to study so much, think that there's so much more power in it. Well, it isn't. And, you know, in past times when there wasn't TV and activities to do, and life wasn't so distracting, it was very easy to do a lot of these long, drawn-out practices. Now it's very difficult. There's multi-distractions. And the bottom line is it just doesn't have to be done that way. But if you want to do the real tradition, the pure tradition, the one with that has an unbroken line, which very few things can be said to be that, you've got it in the Red Dragon Grimoire. And no other Grimoire has that kind of teaching like you get in the Red Dragon Grimoire, done by Master Translator Robert Blanchard. Nothing comes close to it. And you're very foolish to use bastardized junk from other people, which is very likely to be dangerous. Even one or two words changed in these kind of texts can affect it and make it dangerous or make it worthless. And when people go in and start changing sigils and doing all sorts of other things that are involved, you really have to be scared. Be afraid. Be very afraid, as they say. You are going to get yourself in big trouble, especially dealing with Lucifer and his minions and everything else, because they want, Lucifer wanted mankind to be their slaves, and other stories you heard is nonsense. Lucifer wanted to be God and wanted you to worship him. So he wants to make you a slave. And if you don't handle that entity in the proper fashion, then you will be in trouble. And these other books are all nonsense. Complete nonsense. It's all there. It tells you how to do it. Every possible thing you could want is listed in the Red Dragon in terms of the spirits to call for every possible need. Some of them are medieval type based, but those can be modified. I mean, obviously it gives you an idea of what that spirit will do. So you can obviously modify that to a request that fits into the modern world. It's very, and as I said, for a ritual evocational system, it's very simple. We also, with anything obtained from the guild, of course, is that you get free assistance for any product you buy from us. We're more than happy to assist you by email at no additional cost. It's part of properly training people. But if you get the Art of Commanding Spirits, the Black Dragon, you combine that with our hardcore witchcraft sorcery course and the Tibetan secret mind power system, you have the finest magical tools available to you right there. You could spend your entire life just working with those simple, inexpensive tools and do whatever you want in life. You don't need 50,000 systems. You don't need a whole bunch of expensive stuff. It's all there. And it's there for a pittance, and it's easy to use, and you get personal assistance. Another thing you can't get from all these other people that want to sell you stuff and want to play big shots and hide behind their computers, but good luck getting any kind of actual assistance from these people, because they have nothing to offer you, and they certainly don't want to give you any service. They just want you to buy their products. They don't want to help past that. They're nothing but fraudulent Black Lodge businesses, plain and simple. So with that, I want to thank you for listening. Believe nothing and question everything. Let the guild be your guide.